Chapter 976. She wanted to do it and earn some money to support her family, but she didn't have the ability to do so. She was envious. When she thought about what had happened to Tang Guo, her eyes were filled with sympathy. She was glad that she had met Song Juchen, who was a good person. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been any better than Tang Guo. However, now that Tang Guo knew Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang and was good friends with them, wouldn't she feel better with their help? Tang Guo saw Bai Fei's expression clearly and felt that this girl was really naive. If Song Juchen was as bad as Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran, Tang Guo wouldn't be the only one who would be ruined. When the dishes were served, she ate in silence. Chang Zhon, who was sitting opposite her, finally stopped working and started to eat his lunch. During this time, Tang Guo would occasionally glance at him. The system noticed this and quietly asked, "Dear host, is there something wrong with Chang Zhon?" It watched the plot from beginning to end and said, "He's a math maniac. He doesn't pay attention to the outside world, so he doesn't have any grudges with dear host. Oh yes, dear host, I heard that he feels uncomfortable if he doesn't do math for a day. Once, when his family didn't let him do math, he was allergic and got rashes all over his body. This person is really strange. I've never heard of such an illness. Maybe I'm just ignorant." Tang Guo giggled and attracted the attention of everyone present. It had to be said that her bright smile was really attractive. Even Chang Zhon couldn't help but take a second look. However, he quickly recovered and continued to eat. Zhuo Ran came back to his senses and asked, "What are you laughing about? Did you think of something happy?" "Yes, tell us about it." Wei Liang also seemed to be very interested. He didn't realize that his attention to Tang Guo had already exceeded his own understanding. Bai Fei thought to herself, "This face is really beautiful." She thought about those girls who were talking about her. She guessed that those people were jealous of Tang Guo's good looks and started to spread rumors, causing the rumors to spread. Song Juchen didn't have any reaction. He liked girls like Bai Fei. Tang Guo was pretty, but he wasn't interested. Seeing Bai Fei staring at Tang Guo in a daze, he waved his hand in front of Bai Fei's eyes and whispered, "Aren't you going to eat?" Bai Fei hurriedly lowered her head and ate silently. This girl was really pretty. She heard that she was called the school belle as soon as she entered the school. Maybe she was really jealous. Chang Zhon was the first to finish eating. He glanced at Tang Guo inadvertently and left with the math problem in his arms. When he walked out of the cafeteria, he subconsciously looked back because he felt that the pair of eyes were glued to his back. Sure enough, he turned around and saw that she was looking at him with a very direct gaze. Seeing that he was looking at her, she smiled at him again. Chang Zhon's expression was cold as he turned around and left. He was not interested in this strange girl at all. Could it be that his guess was wrong? Was this girl trying to seduce him? He quickly denied it. If she really wanted to seduce them, Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran would have satisfied her. It couldn't be for this reason. "Great host, why do you keep looking at him?" Your system suddenly reacted and exclaimed, "Is this that guy?" "Oh, right, I remember that there was a world where Great Host was a great mathematician." "Oh, I finally understand. It's not that he's allergic when he doesn't do math problems. It's that he thinks of someone when he sees something. He's allergic because he can't see Great Host." Chapter 977. The rumors about Tang Guo in school were getting more and more intense. Even Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang had become her friends. In front of them, no one dared to talk about Tang Guo. As long as they turned around, all kinds of unpleasant words would be said. Apart from the fact that Tang Guo was a kept woman, they talked more about how she had hooked up with Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang at the same time. It was enough to prove that she was a bad girl. Every afternoon, Zhuo Ran, Wei Liang, Song Juchen, and Chang Zhon, the four rich second-generation heirs, would have lunch together. Because Tang Guo was familiar with them, they would come over to call Tang Guo when class was over. Because Song Juchen had helped her in time, Bai Fei trusted him very much. At first, she was shy and unfamiliar with him, but now she was somewhat familiar with him. A handsome boy like Song Juchen was gentle and attentive to Bai Fei. No girl could resist him. Bai Fei was the same. Although they hadn't officially confirmed their relationship, It could be seen that they were closer than others from the way they interacted with each other. Don't worry about other people's gossip. When you get into university, you can leave this place. Zhuo Ran comforted Tang Guo. Wei Liang added, yes, there are too many people and we can't stop them. But we all believe you. We didn't do those things. Besides, we stay together every day, so we know more than them. Yes, Tang Guo. Those people are jealous of you because you are good-looking and can make money. Bai Fei comforted her in a low voice. Among the three people, the first two comforted Tang Guo with other purposes, but only Bai Fei was sincere. During the time they spent together, she liked Tang Guo more and more. She even went to see Tang Guo working part-time in person. She was really capable. Song Ju-chen didn't like to talk. Since he was attracted to Bai Fei, he basically didn't get close to other girls. All his attention was on Bai Fei, so he was not in the mood to pretend to comfort Tang Guo. He only glanced at Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran, pinched Bai Fei's face, and said, the final exam is coming soon. Come back to the classroom with me to do the exam. Bai Fei hurriedly nodded and trotted behind Song Ju-chen. He seemed to dislike Bai Fei for walking too slowly. He stopped in his tracks and waited for her to catch up. Then, he grabbed her by the back of her collar and dragged her into the classroom. I'm also going back to the class to do the test questions. Tang Guo bid farewell to the remaining three people, and her gaze inadvertently swept over Chang Zhon. Faced with his expressionless and cold appearance, a hint of a smile appeared in her eyes. She turned and left. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang didn't look away until Tang Guo's figure disappeared. They looked at each other and Wei Liang said in a low voice, she's getting closer to us now. Yes, shouldn't we take action and take it a step further with her? Zhuo Ran narrowed his eyes. Now that she trusts us a lot, she shouldn't be so against us pursuing her again, right? Let's wait a little longer. After the exams, there's still a holiday. We can use the holiday to spend some time with each other before confessing. It'll be easier for her to let her guard down. Chang Zhon's attention was originally on the math problem in his hand. When he suddenly heard the two people's discussion, he frowned and looked up to stare at the two of them. Wei Liang was a little puzzled. Why are you looking at me? Yes, Chang Zhon. Don't tell me you want to join us too. Not interested. Chang Zhon replied indifferently. Chapter 978. I just want to remind you to stop before you go too far. She's not the kind of person you think she is. He didn't try to understand Tang Guo, but he could tell that she wasn't the kind of girl Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran thought she was. On the contrary, this girl had a captivating temperament. Even if the two of them were scheming to make her reveal her true colors. Many times, he could see that there was a competition between the two of them. He didn't really care about these things. His daily interest was mathematics. But this didn't mean that he was a fool with low EQ. His two childhood friends were trying to expose Tang Guo's true colors. However, there were some who were more serious than others in their behavior. For example, Wei Liang went to order Tang Guo's favorite dishes. Zhuo Ran didn't fall behind and went to buy her favorite drinks. These things weren't expensive, so she wouldn't reject them. But at the same time, she would buy ice cream or milk tea for the two of them after the meal. When the two of them were buying things, they were really enthusiastic. With such obvious actions, it wasn't just to prove that this girl was a materialistic person. They were obviously interested, but they didn't even know it. Chang Zhon, you sound very philosophical. Zhuo Ran's handsome face had a sunny smile. Hey, are you really not interested in her? Chang Zhon glanced at the two of them. Don't drag me into this. I'm just reminding you. This girl isn't the kind of person you think she is. Don't do anything you'll regret. You let people spread rumors about her and then approached her as friends. You stood by her side and gained her trust. This is already a very despicable method. Chang Zhon thought of that girl's smile and frowned. Even so, ordinary girls can't take it. They might have transferred schools or their grades might even drop. They might even do other extreme things that you can't bear the consequences of. But she didn't. This shows that she has a very strong psychological tolerance. Chang Zhon, what do you mean by all this? Wei Liang was a little confused. He thought that these were all small things. It was just a game. Why take it so seriously? When they were almost done with the game and gave her some compensation, she might be grateful, just like the other girls in the past. It wasn't as serious as Chang Zhon said. What I mean is, don't go too far. No matter how strong a person's mental fortitude was, they wouldn't be able to withstand continuous blows. Don't forget that she is 1 year younger than all of you, almost 17. Don't you think such actions are hurting her? Zhuo Ran laughed and patted Chang Zhon's shoulder. It's not that serious. Chang Zhon, I think you're more pleasing to the eye when you're doing math. When it comes to reasoning, you're just like my old man, so long-winded. Let's go back to the classroom, our math idiot. Seeing that he could not persuade the two of them, Chang Zhon did not say anything else. He remembered that he would see that girl's clean smile every afternoon, and he made a decision. After school in the afternoon, Tangwa rode her bicycle home alone. She was surprised to see a boy with a math problem blocking her way on a street not far from her house. Chapter 979. Let's talk. It was Chang Zhon who spoke first. His tone was cold, as if there was no emotion at all. Even when facing Tangwa, his pitch-black eyes were very calm. No matter how stunning the girl in front of him was, she couldn't move him. Tangwa smiled. Sure, where do you want to talk? Chang Zhon's gaze swept around and finally landed on an ice cream shop. He said instinctively, let's go there. After saying that, he was stunned for a moment. He had never gone to an ice cream shop to talk to people, so he probably wouldn't choose such a sweet place. In particular, the customers entering and exiting the shop were all young men and women in pairs. But since he had already said it, it wasn't Chang Zhon's style to go back on his words and change his mind. In other words, although it was already 6 o'clock, the sun was still a little bright and the weather was hot. Going to an ice cream shop might be a good choice. The two of them walked into the ice cream shop one after another. As a man, Chang Zhon naturally asked, do you want ice cream or ice water? Tangwa sat in her seat and supported her chin with one hand. The corners of her lips curled up. I want ice cream. What's that smell? Chang Zhon's voice was still on the same level. The couple eating ice cream beside them couldn't help but glance at him. The girl even whispered to her boyfriend, is this guy chasing a girl? His voice is so cold and his face is so stiff, as if someone owes him $5 million. Do you think you can get a girl with this kind of behavior? Chang Zhon frowned. He turned around and said, we're classmates. I'm not chasing her. The girl's face stiffened. Her boyfriend still had some sense. Thinking that Chang Zhon wasn't someone to be trifled with, he quickly smiled and apologized. Chang Zhon's brows relaxed. It's okay. I'm just telling you guys to avoid misunderstandings. Tangwa looked at the other party's actions with interest. Then, Chang Zhon continued to ask, what flavor do you want? I want all kinds of flavors. Give me a spoon of each. It's best if there's more. I like ice cream. Chang Zhon was stunned. His legs reacted faster than his brain and he immediately got up to order ice cream. After a while, he came back with a glass of ice water and a bowl of various flavors of ice cream in front of Tangwa. There's a lot of different flavors. A spoon of each is just enough to fill a bowl. Thank you. Tangwa took the bowl of ice cream and took a bite. She praised, it's still so delicious. Chang Zhon didn't understand why the girl in front of him was so happy to eat ice cream. From her expression, it could be seen that eating ice cream made her happy and blissful. Right, Senior Chang Zhon, what do you want to talk to me about? Chang Zhon's expression became serious again. He stared at Tangwa's face and said seriously, do you like Wei Liang? No. Tangwa quickly shook her head and asked in surprise, Wei Liang and I are friends. How could I like him? Does Senior Chang Zhon think that I have other intentions for approaching him? Of course not. Chang Zhon felt relieved and asked, what about Zhuo Ran? We're just good friends, and I only treat them as friends. A clean smile appeared on the girl's face. The whole school is spreading rumors about me. I didn't expect that they would actually believe me. I think they can be friends. Before entering university, I won't fall in love at such a young age. I only have friendship for the two of them. After all, they are my only friends. But as soon as Tangwa left, they would whisper to each other again, and their words were even worse than before. The other people in the school felt the same way. Perhaps they all thought that Tangwa's excellent grades and beautiful appearance were a slap to their faces. For such untouchable results, they only wanted to pull her down from her pedestal. They had to find some flaws in her to feel balanced in their hearts. It was like facing a rich man who was as rich as a country. First, they were envious, then jealous, and wondered why they weren't as rich as the other party. If this rich man's messy private life was exposed, the jealous people would laugh and talk about how the rich people's lives were really messy. Saying this would make them feel balanced and much more comfortable. Chapter 981. After the holidays, Tangwa used a week to finish her homework. For the rest of the time, she worked part-time. Actually, she was no longer short of money. The few 100,000 that she had thrown into the stock market had become a few million now. She was sure that before school started, the number would reach tens of millions. But this was not enough. She estimated that it would be 50 million. According to her calculations, 50 million should be enough to help her settle those things. The system was secretly anxious. He really wanted to know what kind of big move the great host had in mind. He was the closest to the great host and had spent the most time with her, but he still could not guess what she was up to. This was the first time he had seen the great host so passionate about making money. She even used stocks to make money. She had to do it openly. But he did not ask, because even if he did, the great host would not tell him. After Shu Maihui lent the money to Tangwa, she saw that her daughter was still the same as before. She didn't change much, so she felt relieved. She did not think that her daughter would change under her education. She was very busy with work and often had to go on business trips. She was very satisfied with her daughter's report card every semester. And in front of her, she behaved normally and did not show any signs of abnormality. So until now, she did not know that Tangwa's personal attacks in school had reached a peak. He believed that even an adult would more or less react in the face of such verbal attacks. Of course, Tangwa would not react differently. Even if it was the original Tangwa, before Zuoran and Wei Liang said those things, she could still take it. She was hurt because her trusted friends, the only two people who believed in her, stabbed her in the back in the end. When she found out that everything was in fact a conspiracy by the two of them, the thick wall that protected her heart collapsed as if it was hit by a flood. She broke down instantly and made such an extreme choice in the end. Moreover, these rumors did not only affect herself, but also her mother who loved her. In order to help her, her mother gave up her job. She was even criticized and harassed by others. Her heart could not take it and she broke down mentally. She blamed herself in her heart and chose such a path. She didn't understand. She clearly didn't do anything. She just came to this legendary high school to study. She had been studying hard and doing her own things. His goal was simple: to gain knowledge and get into a good university. She didn't get in anyone's way, so why was she attacked by so many people in the end? She clearly didn't do anything, so why did those people viciously blame her? She stood on the rooftop and looked down at the group of people. Isn't it just the fact that you're a kept woman being exposed? What's the big deal? Why can't you figure it out? Wei Liang and Zuoran gave you a lot of money, right? You should be compensated. He probably didn't pay enough and threatened Zuoran by jumping off a building. Wei Liang, come over and pay him more. That's too greedy. Perhaps it was because she usually behaved too normally and never showed her weak side to others. She always kept everything in her heart. She always believed that everything would pass. One day, she would welcome the warm sunshine and live a good life. Chapter 982. She didn't think that her mentality would collapse so quickly and that she wouldn't be able to bear it one day. No one thought that she really wanted to jump off the building. They all thought that she was just threatening Wei Liang and Zuoran to ask for more money. During the holidays, Wei Liang and Zuoran didn't give up following Tangwa. When Tangwa went to work part-time, They would buy water, snacks, and her favorite ice cream. They didn't get impatient at all. After it was over, Tangguo would treat them to some snacks, hot pot, barbecue, and so on. The three of them got along quite well. When school was about to start, Zuoran went to look for Tangguo first. Xiaoguo, we've known each other for so long. You should know me well, right? Tangguo looked up and smiled. What do you want to say? Zuoran leaned closer to her and said gently, the closer I get to you, the more attracted I am to you. Xiaoguo, I'm sincerely pursuing you. I hope you can give me a chance. When Zuoran said this, he couldn't help but feel nervous. In the past, when he approached girls and said such things to them, he was always teasing them. He had never been so nervous that his palms were sweating. He thought that it was because of the hot weather, not because he cared about whether Tangguo agreed or not. He maintained a good-looking smile. When he expressed his feelings, almost all girls were attracted to his gentleness and sunshine. Xiaoguo, you can think about it. I'll wait for your answer. I'm sorry, Zuoran. Tangguo shook her head almost without thinking. I've always treated you as a friend. I don't have any other thoughts. Whether it was the unfamiliar you or the familiar you now, I don't have any other thoughts. I'm very happy to know a good friend like you. Zuoran's smile disappeared and his hands under the table clenched into fists. He really didn't expect that after trying for so many months, the answer he got was still so straightforward. She rejected him without hesitation. He stared at the beautiful girl in front of him and said again, Xiaoguo, are you not willing to give me a chance? Can't you give it a try with me? I want to study seriously now. I won't consider personal relationships before university, and I really only treat you as my best friend. Therefore, I am very sorry. A look of helplessness flashed across Tangguo's face. If you've been nice to me all this time because you like me, then let's meet less in the future. After being rejected again, Zuoran was a little angry. However, he had always been very concerned about his image. He buried his head for a long time before a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Forget it. I forced you too much. The two of them sat together in silence for a while before leaving. A few days later, Wei Liang held a large bouquet of roses and confessed to Tangguo, Xiaoguo, I still like you in my heart. After thinking about it, I'm willing to try again. I hope you can give me a chance. Wei Liang was the same as Zuoran. They were both filled with confidence. When he heard that Zuoran had failed, he mocked him in his heart for a long time. Finally, it was his turn. He did not expect himself to be so nervous. He didn't think that he was nervous because he cared about Tangguo. He was just afraid that if Tangguo rejected him, he would be laughed at by Zuoran. He was more prepared and was not as casual as Zuoran. He didn't bring anything. He asked her to a milk tea shop and confessed. Chapter 983. He had heard that girls didn't like to be too casual, so he specially took care of his image. He bought beautiful roses and ordered high-end Western food. He was just waiting for Tangguo to agree to take him to eat there. When Wei Liang's palms were sweating, Tangguo's beautiful little face showed an apologetic smile. I'm sorry. Wei Liang's smile froze on his face. He never thought that he would be rejected like this. It was exactly the same as a few months ago. She didn't even think about it. Even if she hesitated for a moment, he would feel better. He had been so busy for so long. In order to confess to her, he had spent the whole day today just to give her a good impression. He thought that she would definitely agree, but he didn't expect that she would reject him. Then forget it. Wei Liang reacted quickly. You've already rejected me once. Looks like I'm overthinking. Tangguo said a few words to the other party and then left. Wei Liang's face darkened. At this moment, Zuoran called. Did it work? No. Wei Liang's voice was cold. He threw the roses on the ground and stomped on them. I can't accept it. After spending so much time, she didn't even hesitate. Could it be that she's just playing with us for fun? Let's drink at the usual place. Do you want to come? Wait for me. Ever since the failed confession, Zuoran and Wei Liang didn't appear by Tangguo's side. They were all arrogant rich second-generation heirs. It was impossible for them to be rejected one after another, let alone kneel down and lick her boots. They didn't come to Tang Guo. Tang Guo also stopped working part-time. Since there was still a week before school started, she took a look at the stock market and cashed out most of her stocks. She left the rest in the stock market and continued to snowball. The stocks that she had bought previously were rising better than she had imagined. She had thought that she would be able to earn more than 10 million before school started. She didn't expect that she had cashed out about 20 million so far. One day, she curled up on the sofa at home and said to the system, "Help me find the private contact of the world's top lawyers. Also, get their weaknesses and hobbies." The system's data shook. It quickly replied, "Understood, dear host." He was now invincible on the internet. As long as there was an internet connection, no one could stop him. Within an hour, he found the information of the world's top lawyers. Not only did he obtain their personal contact information, but he also found out their weaknesses. All of their weaknesses were placed in front of Tang Guo. Tang Guo looked at their information and sighed. "They're still too poor. Fortunately, I can pay for their expenses with other things. Tongzi, in the system space, pick out the things that they are interested in, take a photo, and send it to them. If they are interested, they will definitely contact you." "Alright, Madam Host, what should I tell them after they contact me?" "Tell them to come here. I have a lawsuit for them to fight. As long as they win, I will give them whatever they want." The system knew that the host was serious. He followed Tang Guo's instructions. Those top lawyers were very surprised by this email that had appeared out of nowhere. This was because this was their private email, and outsiders did not know about it. When they saw something that they were interested in, they would contact the system. After the system notified Tang Guo sent them a document. After seeing this document, 30 out of the 50 lawyers were willing to take on this special case. Chapter 984. On the day before school started, Tang Guo met with 30 of the world's top lawyers. These lawyers from all over the world looked at each other in surprise when they found out that they had been invited to the same villa. Because they were all very famous and were in the same industry, they more or less knew about each other. They greeted each other, and when they saw that the host had not arrived yet, they began to talk about their visit. After the exchange, they found out that their employer notified them via email, and it was even through their personal email. Although they did not reveal the conditions of their visit, they were all smart people and should have guessed that it must be something that could satisfy each other. That was why they had come so easily. When Tang Guo appeared in front of them, everyone stood up in surprise. Many years later, when they recalled this magical meeting, they would still remember it. "Welcome, everyone, and thank you very much for coming." When they came, they were prepared. Although Tang Guo spoke in English, some of them who were not good at English still understood Tang Guo's words through the translator. Even though they were very surprised, they were still willing to wait patiently because the person who invited them was just an Asian girl who looked like she was in her teens. They greeted Tang Guo in their own language. It can be said that they have gotten to know each other. Since you are here, it means that you are willing to take on this case. What is written in the email is true. I want to sue those people. Tang Guo sat on the sofa and said calmly, "I invited you and did not hesitate to use something that you are interested in exchange for this case. My purpose is to win this case. You are all the top lawyers in the world. As the saying goes, if the strong work together, you will not let me down." The lawyers looked at each other and said, "Of course, we are here because we are confident that we can win this case," one of the lawyers said excitedly. "Also, I am not here just for the treasure that Miss Tang took out that I am very interested in. I believe that they are the same. None of us have taken on a case like this before. We're more interested and curious. Miss Tang's way of thinking is too mysterious. What you're doing is too courageous. Like you, we are here for the purpose of winning." As long as they could win, they would get far more than the treasure that Tang Guo gave them. This would be the first and most magical case in the world. Because there were too many defendants in this case. However, we need to do a lot of preparatory work, which will take a lot of time. Miss Tang, if you're not in a hurry, We can use a year to collect evidence and guarantee that the other party won't be able to refute it. No, I'm in a hurry, Tangwa said. You only have 1 month to prepare. The lawyers present looked at each other and whispered to each other. They all thought that it would be a little difficult. I invited all of you here because I have sufficient evidence. I have all the evidence that you want. Tangwa took out a thick stack of CDs and put them on the coffee table. I think there's nothing more convincing than what's inside. If you still can't win this lawsuit with these things in your hands, I think your reputation will be ruined. The lawyers weren't annoyed by this sentence. Instead, they stared at the thick stack of CDs with great interest. Chapter 985. Tangwa stood up and said, Dear lawyers, ladies, and gentlemen, you only have 1 month to prepare. I'll leave the things here to you. I have a lot of these things. You can call me anytime to get them. I have to start school tomorrow, so I'll take my leave. Tangwa turned and walked out with a smile on her face. After she left, the 30 lawyers couldn't wait to look at the contents of the CD. They were very curious about what was inside. The next day, Tangwa started school. The people in school still hadn't forgotten about her and would still look at her strangely. They observed for 2 days and realized that Zhuoran and Wei Liang didn't ask Tangwa to eat on the top floor of the cafeteria in the afternoon. At first, they didn't suspect anything. They just thought that they were in their 3rd year of high school and were more nervous about their studies, so they didn't ask Tangwa to eat. But 2 weeks later, Zhuoran and Wei Liang didn't even greet Tangwa when they saw her. This made people suspect that their relationship had broken down. Especially when people whispered bad things about Tangwa in front of them, they didn't react at all. After countless probing, they finally came to the conclusion that Tangwa, Zhuoran, and Wei Liang were no longer together. They might have fallen out with each other. It was also possible that the two of them were no longer interested in Tangwa. Seeing that she didn't quarrel, most people thought that the two of them had given her enough compensation and that they had broken up peacefully. Without Zhuoran and Wei Liang's protection, more people talked about Tangwa. From being a prostitute to being kept by an old man, people were talking about how Tangwa had been kept by both Wei Liang and Zhuoran at the same time. Some people even revealed that Tangwa had been fooling around with the two of them during the holidays. They probably had enough fun during the holidays and felt that there was nothing new about it. Since they had already gotten their hands on her, they definitely wouldn't be interested anymore. After all, these two people had always been like this, so it wasn't strange at all. Because of their generosity, wealth, and status, almost no one would say anything bad about them. Moreover, they didn't force the girl. The girl was willing, so there was nothing wrong at all. When Zhuoran and Wei Liang heard this, they just laughed. In fact, they often observed Tangwa's figure from a corner. Seeing those people talking about her and scolding her to her face, she didn't feel good. But when they remembered Tangwa's cold rejection, they didn't want to bother at all. They were waiting for her to beg them. As long as she asked and said that she needed their protection, even if she didn't want to be their girlfriend, for the sake of their past relationship, they would still help her. However, they did not see it coming. It could be said that they had already become angry out of humiliation. One day, Tangwa finished school. She was still in the same small alley, and Changzhon blocked her way. Is something the matter, Senior Changzhon? Changzhon's expression was complicated. Are the rumors in school really not affecting you? No, are you concerned about me? Tangwa said with a smile. That bright smile really looked like a person who was fine. Changzhon wasn't sure if she could take it or not. I will persuade them to help you explain. Senior Changzhon, you are really a good person. In the busy 3rd year of high school, you still care about other people's business. Changzhon didn't like this kind of praise and said, I just don't want to see my childhood friends do wrong. I will apologize to them for the harm they have caused you. Chapter 986. But, Senior, have you ever thought that once the damage has been done, there is no point in apologizing? Tangwa stopped smiling. They are the ones at fault, not you. There is no point in apologizing. Changzhon was speechless. He looked at Tang Guo with a complicated expression and asked, "Do you want to transfer schools? If you leave here, I can help you choose a better high school in another city. With your current grades, I guarantee that you will be able to enter a good university." Tang Guo laughed again. "Then what am I doing? What do you mean?" Tang Guo looked down and the corners of her mouth twitched. "I did nothing wrong, and I did not do those things in the rumors. Because of these rumors, everyone is attacking me, so I want to leave here. I want to go to a place where no one knows me. I did nothing wrong, so why am I the one who is running away and avoiding? One day, when they mention my name, they will still think of the girl who was once kept as a mistress and sold herself out. She was even kept as a mistress by two rich second-generation heirs at the same time. In the second semester of her second year of high school, she could not take it anymore and transferred schools. At class reunions, they will think of this and talk about it. They will ask each other if you know what happened to this girl named Tang Guo. Maybe they will even say that she was kept as a mistress in high school. When she went to university, it must be the same. When she came out to work, she probably relied on the unspoken rules to get promoted. In any case, in their mouths, this girl named Tang Guo will be filthy for the rest of her life and she will never be able to escape from such rumors. This is not the scariest part. The scariest part is that this girl named Tang Guo will really get what you want. She will move to the school you wanted and start a new life. She will be admitted to university and will have a stable and high-paying job after graduation. But one day, the people from that school will recognize her and even work in her company. They will spread rumors that did not exist in the past. At this point, Tang Guo looked up and said to Chang Zhon, "Senior, do you think that the people in the company will believe the words of this girl named Tang Guo's former schoolmate? What do you think her colleagues will think of her? As long as such rumors don't disappear and don't prove my innocence, I'll never be able to do anything. For the rest of my life, no matter where I go, as long as someone recognizes me and continues to spread rumors, I will never be at peace. The scariest thing is that no one will believe me. They all think that there's no smoke without fire. If there's nothing wrong with me, why would there be such rumors? The person who spread the rumor is my schoolmate. They won't think that my schoolmate is lying. It's fine if it's just one schoolmate, but senior, I have countless schoolmates in this school. There are so many people talking about me every day that I can't even keep count. I don't even recognize most of them. They clearly don't know me well, but they can use rumors to ruin my life and just leave. So, why should I leave? Why am I the one who left? I'm not wrong." Chang Zhon couldn't refute her. He tried to imagine what she had said. Everything that had happened was basically the same as what she had said. Even if no one really met her in the future, the damage caused by the false rumors that she had been attacked by now was not something that could be resolved just by walking away. "So, do you need me to do anything for you?" Chang Zhon stared at the girl's clear eyes in front of him. "I can help you." "Senior Chang Zhon, since you've asked, I'll have to trouble you to send me home in the future. By the way, why don't you come and pick me up in the morning? That way, you won't have to put the bike in the car in the afternoon. It's getting late." "Bye-bye, senior." Chang Zhon stood in place, unable to react. He stared at Tang Guo's back, full of questions. He remembered that she had never promised Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran to send her home. Why did he agree to it when it came to him? Strange. No matter what, Chang Zhon really did ask the driver to drive here in the morning, and he saw Tang Guo waiting at the entrance of the alley. He was a little glad, if he didn't come, she would be late. Chapter 988. Senior, you're a man of your word. Chang Zhon shook his head and flipped open the math exercise book. When the two arrived at school and got out of a car, they were met with countless judgmental looks. After Tang Guo and Chang Zhon thanked each other, they walked to the classroom expressionlessly, ignoring the disdainful looks and whispers. At noon, Chang Zhon went to Tang Guo's classroom. Since she was not afraid of being sent home by him, she was not afraid to eat with him. Tang Guo agreed readily, ignoring the strange looks of the students in the classroom. She smiled and followed Chang Zhon to the cafeteria. When they reached the top floor, they naturally met Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang. When the two saw Tang Guo and Chang Zhon coming together, they looked at each other and did not greet Tang Guo. At first, they thought that Chang Zhon only asked Tang Guo to come up for lunch because he met her by chance. Later, they saw the two of them chatting while eating. They were even talking about math and no one else could get a word in. For Chang Zhon's sake, they could only eat with sullen faces and did not say anything. After Tang Guo finished eating and left, Song Ju-chen saw that the situation was not right and also left with Bai Fei. The two of them stared at Chang Zhon. Wei Liang asked, "Chang Zhon, what's going on? Why did you ask her to eat? You seem to be very close to her." Zhuo Ran also questioned. Chang Zhon's reaction was calm. "I asked her to come up for lunch. Are you trying to ease the tension between us?" Zhuo Ran hesitated and asked. If that was the case, it was indeed something that Chang Zhon would do. However, he still felt that there was something strange. Chang Zhon said, "No." This time, Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang became angry. "Are you interested in her too? Or did she seduce you?" Zhuo Ran said with a sullen face. "Chang Zhon, we told you before that if you're interested in her, just say it. Tell me, did she seduce you or did you seduce her?" Wei Liang asked angrily as if he wanted to eat someone. Chang Zhon's expression was still cold. "Neither. She and I are friends. Who are you trying to fool? She must be the one who seduced you," Wei Liang said with an ugly expression. No wonder she didn't accept us and even got close to you. It turns out that she wasn't in a relationship at all. She just didn't want to be with us." That's true. The Chang family's background is much deeper than ours. Previously, there were more girls who fancied Chang Zhon than us. It was only because they saw that Chang Zhon was like a block of wood that they agreed to us, Zhuo Ran said. Chang Zhon shook his head when he saw how excited the two of them were. He then left with the mathematics book in his arms. These two people would never realize their mistakes. They also didn't realize that their current actions were simply jealousy. "Chang Zhon, you're so mean." Hearing Wei Liang's shouting, Chang Zhon didn't want to bother with him anymore. He suddenly felt that it was normal for her to look down on them. Because Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang flew into a rage out of humiliation, the two of them even played tricks behind the scenes, causing Tang Guo to be their sugar baby for a holiday. Everyone knew about it, and it didn't seem like a groundless accusation at all. They even released some photos. Actually, these photos were just photos of her having fun with them. However, because they were taken from different angles, they looked very intimate. The forum was filled with intimate photos of Tang Guo and the two of them. That day, the form teacher called Tang Guo to the office. "Classmate Tang Guo, can you explain?" Chapter 989. Tang Guo stood in front of the homeroom teacher and said seriously, "Teacher, this is fake. I was just friends with them. It's different from the rumors. Since it's fake, why is it spreading like wildfire now?" The homeroom teacher had a look of disbelief on her face. There had been many rumors about Tang Guo before, but because of this student's excellent grades, together with Tang Guo, she had 2 of the top 5 students in the grade. As long as it didn't cause too much of an impact and spread rumors among the students, Tang Guo was with Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang, 2 rich second-generation heirs with extraordinary backgrounds. She would turn a blind eye to it. Now, the school forum was full of photos of them behaving intimately. She had already received several calls from the students' parents, asking if this was true. After all, this high school was the best high school in the city. If this matter spread, it would be very bad for the school's reputation. Whether Tang Guo did those things or not, as long as it didn't spread and didn't bring trouble to the school and her, she couldn't care less. She was just a homeroom teacher. As long as the students were safe and studying in school, she would do her duty. The students nowadays were all the treasures of their families. She didn't dare to interfere. The more she interfered, the more mistakes she would make. As for the rumors, Tang Guo didn't come looking for her. Her grades were still among the best, and she even got first place last semester. If it hadn't blown up like this, the principal would have asked her to investigate this matter. If this continued, in a few days, The students' parents and reporters would come looking for her. Many people had their eyes on the school. If a few big pieces of news came out, everyone would be especially interested. Facing the homeroom teacher's question, Tangwa replied, "Teacher, I listen in class every day and do my homework after class. I never have any conflicts with others. After school, I go home and occasionally go out to do some part-time jobs. You asked me why this kind of thing that was originally made out of nothing would spread like wildfire. Actually, I'm also very curious as to why everyone is talking about this matter. Ever since I entered this high school, there have been endless rumors. But I sat upright and thought that if I didn't care, they would just talk about it and let it pass. I didn't expect it to turn out like this." The homeroom teacher frowned and said, "This matter has already caused a lot of impact on the school. Some parents have heard about it and have already asked us to give them an explanation. So, teacher, what kind of explanation do you think we should give them?" Tangwa stared at the homeroom teacher with her beautiful eyes. "Teacher, did you call me here to prove my innocence and dispel those rumors? If that's really the case, I can cooperate with you to investigate. I believe that with the efforts of the teachers, they will definitely be able to catch those who started the rumors and clear my name." The homeroom teacher didn't expect that before she could even ask Tangwa about herself, the other party would first say that they wanted to help her investigate the rumors. However, if this matter really wasn't Tangwa's problem, but some students spreading rumors, it was indeed a good thing for her class. Tangwa's grades were too outstanding. In fact, other than those rumors, it didn't bring her any trouble. "Tell me honestly, you really didn't do those things?" Tangwa shook her head. "How could I possibly do those things? To tell you the truth, although I was born into a single-parent family, my mother is a very hardworking person." Chapter 990. My mother has created a good learning environment for me, and I have some eloquence and acting skills. Occasionally, I will go out to do some part-time jobs to earn some pocket money. The form teacher in front of her was not a malicious person. It was just that in today's society, most people were relatively self-centered. As long as it did not have much to do with them, they would not want to get into trouble. In this world, most people did not do anything. In particular, the students in this school were either rich or respectable. Among them, the teachers were considered a vulnerable group. Of course, this excluded those who were in cahoots with those who started the rumors. Originally, when this matter had happened, the form teacher had also called Tangwa to the office to ask about this matter. Just like now, the other party's attitude was very calm and there was not much disdain in her eyes. Tangwa's answer was similar to hers. Both of them said that she did not do such a thing. If possible, she hoped that the school could help her investigate. The homeroom teacher agreed and went to the principal. She didn't think that Tangwa was a bad girl. This form teacher was almost 50 years old, but she still had a good eye for people. She felt that this matter needed to be investigated thoroughly. It would be best if the two parties involved could come forward to testify. After all, the impact was already very big. The school respected such experienced teachers and went to look for Zhuoran and Wei Liang. However, the two of them were not willing to come forward to testify for Tangwa. The form teacher saw that the matter was getting worse. She had no choice but to look for Tangwa again. Seeing the pretty girl in front of her so obedient, she could not bear to see her like this. She had also specially investigated and found that Tangwa did use her free time to do part-time jobs. She did not mess around. She had originally intended to ask the school to inform the students not to spread false rumors and to show that Tangwa was a good student with good character and academic performance. However, the school felt that if they directly reported the current situation, the parents who were watching them would think that they couldn't bear to part with this girl who had good grades but was full of flaws. They would be dissatisfied and transfer their children to another school. Now, many parents had already expressed their opinions. Either their children would transfer to another school, or they would expel Tangwa. The homeroom teacher had no choice but to tactfully say to Tangwa, "Why don't you transfer schools first? There's still one more semester before your senior year. It's good to have a change of environment." Tangwa was unwilling. If she transferred to another school, Wouldn't it be equivalent to admitting that she had done all these? The stubbornness in her bones made it impossible for her to leave the school. The rumor of her being the mistress of 2 rich second-generation heirs spread like wildfire. Sometimes, when she returned home from school, she would be scolded by her parents. All kinds of unpleasant words fell on her body. In just one short week, no one knew what kind of pressure she had suffered. At that time, Shu Maihui was on a business trip, so she had no idea what kind of verbal attacks her daughter had suffered at school. In the end, some parents even chased her to the classroom to scold her. If it weren't for the school's people stopping them, they would probably have hit her. They scolded her, calling her a little bitch. Not only did they scold her, but they also scolded her mother, Shu Maihui. At this time, she finally decided to find Zuoran and Wei Liang and ask them to prove her innocence. In the end, of course, the two of them admitted in public that she had been kept as a mistress for a holiday, and it was done by them at the same time. Chapter 991. All of her hopes collapsed at this moment. Because of the two parties involved, the school finally decided to expel Tang Guo on the grounds that she had caused a negative impact on the school. After that, Shu Maihui came back and found out about this matter. She first scolded her and then brought her to seek justice. She quit her job because of her. Her incident was on the news, and the news of her being kept by a rich second-generation heir spread to almost every corner. In the end, of course, justice could not be sought. The mother and daughter still had to live on, so Shu Maihui found another job. The boss of the company also knew Shu Maihui and knew that she had a daughter who was kept by a rich second-generation heir. Shu Maihui was only in her 30s. She had good taste, maintained herself well and had a good temperament. The boss often harassed her. Unfortunately, Tang Guo saw it and it eventually led to that tragedy. Tang Guo looked at the form teacher in front of her and said, "Teacher, I really did not do those things. The only thing I want now is to study hard and get into a good university." The form teacher believed her. She believed this girl with clean eyes in front of her. "Then I will report this matter to the school and see if I can communicate with the two boys and get them to clarify the matter for you." As long as the two rich second-generation heirs were willing to testify, this matter could be settled. As for the other rumors in the school, there was no basis at all. It was much easier to control them. To be honest, she could not bear to let such an outstanding student go. She also sympathized with her. "Thank you, teacher." The two of them talked for a long time. At this time, the next class had already started. Tang Guo walked to the door of the classroom. Before she could speak, the language teacher looked at her with disdain and said, "If you're late, just stand outside and listen. I hope that all students will pay attention to their own morals, especially in a sacred place like the school. Do not bring in all kinds of bad habits and affect other students." The language teacher adjusted her glasses and continued, "Students should act like students. The school is a place for lessons. Comparing and dressing up gorgeously will affect the school's appearance." After saying a few words, the language teacher ignored Tang Guo and continued with the class. When the class was over, the language teacher walked down from the podium. As he walked past Tang Guo, he frowned and said, "Student, I hope that you won't bring that kind of atmosphere to the class and affect the other students." "Teacher Chen, what do you mean by atmosphere?" Tang Guo looked straight at him. The language teacher's face stiffened. "You know what you've done. Do you need me to point it out? You were 20 minutes late last time. Where have you been fooling around?" She didn't like Tang Guo to begin with. That girl was pretty and a little arrogant. She wasn't likable at all. Once, she accidentally bumped into Shu Maihui, a very young and beautiful woman who was also the manager of a large company. At that time, she had been thinking about how she had become a manager at such a young age and was even a single mother. Who knew how many unspoken rules she had gone through? Later, when the rumors about Tang Guo came out, she firmly believed in her own speculation. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. Isn't it easy for a beautiful woman to be promoted? Who knew? Tang Guo might have been accidentally conceived by her and had no choice but to give birth to her. "Teacher Chen, You can actually ask the form teacher if I've been fooling around with her." When these words came out, the surrounding people laughed. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang also saw Tang Guo walking towards them. They looked at each other and stopped playing basketball, waiting for Tang Guo to come in front of them. "What are you doing here?" Wei Liang asked. However, it was impossible to get them to agree immediately. To prove that there's nothing going on between us and that there's no mistaking. Moreover, we were friends before. Tang Guo looked at the two people in front of her with a sincere look, with some expectations. 2. T. Chapter 993. She dared to look for them only because they were the only two people in the school who stood by her side and believed in her. After being together for so long, she thought that these two people would help her explain. The people around also stared at Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang, waiting for them to say something. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang suddenly laughed. They looked at Tang Guo mockingly, thinking that she was a little naive. Wei Liang laughed. "What's there to prove? We are in that kind of relationship." "Yeah, is it because you don't have enough money?" Zhuo Ran took out a wallet from his pocket, took out a stack of money and stuffed it into Tang Guo's hand. His voice was a little flirtatious as he said, "Just tell us if you need money. Seeing that you worked so hard during the holidays, we won't leave you alone. Zhuo Ran, give her more. No matter what, she's still a woman who has been with us. We can't let her suffer." Wei Liang said loudly, "But, we can give you money, but if you want to restore our relationship, forget it. We're no longer interested in you." As the two spoke, they observed Tang Guo's expression. They were looking forward to it. She was like a broken doll, everything collapsing at this moment. Of course, what they were looking forward to was presented. They saw that this clean girl in front of them had a look of disbelief and despair in her eyes. There were also sounds of discussion around them. They were smiling, but they felt a little uncomfortable in their hearts. Wow, so it's true. Zhuo Ran and the others have admitted it. So she really is their mistress. So she wants money. She's too greedy. Zhuo Ran frowned slightly, but his gaze was still on Tang Guo. Tang Guo threw the money in her hand. A drop of tear fell from the corner of her eye. Her voice was a little choked. "Please help me prove that nothing happened between us. We're just friends. We've always been innocent." She took a step forward and tugged at Wei Liang's sleeve, but was flung away. Wei Liang put aside the pity in his heart and said in a cold voice with a hint of sarcasm, "Take the money and leave. You can't be acting and standing at the same time, right? No, nothing happened between the two of us at all. It's not that kind of relationship." However, the onlookers clearly didn't believe that Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang were rich second-generation heirs, but there was no need for them to lie about such things. They believed without hesitation that what they were hearing was the truth. No matter what Tang Guo said, they just ignored her. She took the clothes back to the classroom and wanted to chase after him, but she was stopped by the others. In less than 10 minutes, everything that had happened was recorded and posted on the forum. That day, the school received many calls from parents, saying that they must expel such a bad student. They all thought that this girl must have seduced a male classmate. They couldn't blame Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang, but they could still expel a girl who ruined the school's reputation. Tang Guo looked at the various curses on the internet. She put away her phone and said to the system, "Soon. If Xu Maihui knew about this, she would definitely come back immediately." She said to the system, "Block everything about the school from my mother's phone. Don't let her see it." According to the timeline, Xu Maihui saw this on the news and immediately ended a very important project and rushed back. As long as she didn't see it, it was enough for her to do something. As for the rest, he would explain it slowly. Chapter 994. Chang Zhon, what are you doing? Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang didn't expect that Chang Zhon would bring his bodyguards to beat them up. Now, they were tied to the sofa and couldn't move. Chang Zhon looked at them coldly. "You've disappointed me. Changzhen, are you crazy? Wei Liang shouted. You're beating us up because of a girl? This isn't about a girl, but your methods are too vicious. Changzhen ordered the bodyguards coldly. Beat them up again. Ayo, Changzhen, you're crazy. If you like her, just say it. We won't do anything to her. Changzhen frowned and dialed Tang Guo's number. When he heard a voice on the other side, he spoke first. It's me. Senior Changzhen? Yes. Changzhen hesitated. I've already tied them up. What do you want to do? I'll help you. Tang Guo was surprised for a moment. She said with a slightly low voice, what they said has already been spread like wildfire. It's useless, senior. There are already many parents who want the school to expel me. I'll help you. You won't be expelled. Tell me, what do you want to do? Hearing that low and helpless voice, Changzhen's heart sank. He felt terrible. He thought that if she didn't like them, there wouldn't be any problems. He was too naive. He had completely forgotten how bad their personalities were. I'll take them to school and help you clarify. Senior, now no one will believe that these are fake. Changzhen pursed his lips. Looking at the two who were still being beaten, he panicked. Where are you? I'm at home. I'll help you transfer schools. No. Then what do you want? Those who make mistakes have to pay the price. The voice was cold. Changzhen felt that something was wrong. He thought of those who couldn't take the rumors and chose to commit suicide. He panicked. Senior, bye-bye. I won't say any more. When the call was hung up, Changzhen felt a little uneasy. If anything happens to her, you won't be able to absolve yourselves from the blame. You can only regret it for the rest of your lives. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang didn't think much of it. There were so many rumors in the past, but she didn't do anything. They were just teaching her a lesson. When they were in a better mood, they would help her clear her name. The next day, Changzhen asked the driver to wait at the alley not far from Tang Guo's house. Seeing that she came out safe and sound, he heaved a sigh of relief. Tang Guo continued to take his car to school. When she arrived at school, she found that the school had been gambled. Seeing this, Changzhen hurriedly stuffed her into the car, his expression extremely ugly. The situation was more serious than he had imagined. Some of them were parents, while others were reporters. The parents were very agitated. Expel him. He must be expelled. What's wrong with your school? How could you let such a person study here? My daughter is only 15 years old this year. What if she leads you astray? If you don't expel him, I'll transfer him to another school immediately. I really didn't expect that the best high school would have such a bad student. You have to give us an explanation. Changzhen's expression was still as cold as ever. I'll send you home. I won't go today. Let me get out of the car, senior. No. Text 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download text directly on your phone. Peak. Chapter 995. Tang Guo pushed Changzhen away and got out of the car. Changzhen didn't know that she was so strong. Seeing that someone had noticed her, he quickly followed her. It's her, right? I think so. It's that little bitch. Great, you little bitch. You actually came to school. If you like to prostitute yourself, why don't you just sell yourself in society? What's the point of studying? Phut, one look and I can tell that she's not a decent person. She looks like a vixen. Those two boys were probably seduced by her. All kinds of nasty words entered their ears. If it weren't for someone stopping them, these parents would have rushed up to Tang Guo and hit her. However, some people directly threw things that they could throw at Tang Guo. Changzhen quickly protected her in his arms. Immediately, a parent said, "Young man, don't be fooled by her. Why is this kind of dirty little bitch so rare? Don't ruin your own future." Those people scolded her with ferocious faces. There were also people around watching. Many people in the school were also watching. Most of them were looking at her with disdain. A small number of people didn't want to get involved. They either stood silently by the side or turned to leave. Tang Guo was protected by Chang Zhon as they walked to the school gate. At this moment, the person in charge of the school came out. The parents were silent. Dear parents, after an emergency discussion with the school, we feel that Tang Guo's behavior has indeed caused trouble for the students and seriously damaged the school's image. Therefore, we have decided to expel her as a punishment. Tang Guo looked at the person who spoke and the parents who were laughing happily and clapping their hands. It's a good decision to expel her. She deserves to be expelled. Good, you did the right thing. This kind of person who corrupts the school's image deserves to be expelled. The reporters also rushed to Tang Guo and asked all kinds of sharp questions. Tang Guo looked up at them with a pair of beautiful and clear eyes. I just want to say that I didn't corrupt the school's image, nor did I do what the rumors said. Instead, it's you people who are ruining my reputation and spreading false rumors. Of course, before she could finish, she was interrupted by the parents. Chang Zhon saw that the situation was not right and quickly escorted her into the car. She rolled down the car window and flashed a bright smile at everyone. One day, those who spread rumors will pay the price. Chang Zhon sent Tang Guo home in silence, not knowing what to say. Which city do you want to go to? After thinking about it, he could only help her like this. Tang Guo shook her head. I don't want to go anywhere for the time being. I'll definitely prove your innocence. Tang Guo smiled. Thank you. No, don't thank me. This is what I should do. He was the one who didn't stop Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang in time. Chang Zhon said goodbye to Tang Guo and went back to think of a way to do it. He was smart, but he was not yet 18 years old. There were many resources that he could not use. He did not expect to hear news about Tang Guo again, and it was from the class group. Tang Guo climbed to the school's rooftop. She's going to jump off the building. Seeing this news, Chang Zhon's heart skipped a beat. He did not care about anything else and rushed to the school. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang also knew about this immediately. After looking at each other, they quickly put on their clothes and went to the school. When they arrived at the school's tallest building, they saw the girl sitting on the rooftop. It was so high that her legs were dangling in the air and her body looked like it would fall at any time. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. Text 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download text directly on your phone. Peak. Chapter 996. Xiao Guo, come down quickly. Zhuo Ran shouted in a trembling voice. She looked at Tang Guo's legs hanging in the air. This teaching building was the tallest, with 8 floors. If she really fell from here, she would be crippled even if she didn't die. Come down quickly. Let's talk nicely, okay? Xiao Guo, come down. Wei Liang's eyes turned red. Come down, okay? Tang Guo smiled and looked at the two of them. She said in an ethereal tone, where do I come down? Do I just jump down like this? No. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang shouted at the same time. They quickly shook their heads. No, Xiao Guo, turn around and put your legs back. Come down from the stairs. That's too troublesome. It's easier to just come down from here. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang's lips and teeth were trembling. No, they didn't think of such an outcome. This wasn't what they wanted. 1 ton and 1 ti. They just wanted to teach her a lesson. They just couldn't take it lying down. They didn't expect her to climb to such a high place. I beg you, come down, okay? Wei Liang was really scared. He simply knelt on the ground. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Come down. After you come down, you can do whatever you want, okay? Seeing this, Zhuo Ran also knelt down. Her knees hit the ground with a bang. Everyone who heard the sound felt pain. But the two of them completely forgot about the pain. They just wanted to call the girl down from the rooftop. Wrong, they were all wrong. They shouldn't have done that. Seeing that she still had a smile on her face, they felt even worse. Listen up, Wei Liang suddenly shouted. The people around him quieted down and looked at him. He said loudly, all of you, listen up. Wei Liang. He grabbed Zhuarant's collar and pulled her up. He said with a ferocious expression, "And him, Zhuaran, the two of us and Tang Guo have always been innocent. Nothing happened." After saying that, he looked at the hesitant crowd. It was obvious that they didn't believe him. He was the one involved. If he said nothing, then nothing happened. Those rumors were spread by Zhuaran and me. It was all my doing. Zhuaran said, "Yes, it was all done by the two of us. Everything was done by us. The two of us spread rumors because we failed to pursue Xiao Guo. Our plan is to wait for the whole school to attack her before we approach her. That way, we will be the only ones who believe in her, and she will definitely treat us differently. At that time, if we pursue her again, she might agree." Wei Liang continued, "I didn't expect that she would still reject me, saying that she needs to study hard now. So, we flew into a rage out of humiliation and ignored the rumors that she was our mistress. We even accelerated the spread of the rumors." Zhuarant's eyes stung. "We refused the school's request for us to come out and prove this matter. When she came to us that day, out of revenge, we admitted to the groundless relationship between us." Chapter 997. She's an innocent girl. She really didn't do anything in the rumors. The voices of the two were like roars. After they finished speaking, they observed the expressions of the crowd and realized that they were still looking at them suspiciously. Someone even said, in order to save their classmate, "These two boys are really benevolent. They actually took all the blame on themselves." Yeah, that's right. In front of life, nothing is important. These two boys are quite responsible. Yeah, that girl is really making a mountain out of a molehill. Just because of some rumors, she wants to die. You've been sitting up there for so long. Why don't you jump down? Yeah, didn't you want to jump? Why don't you jump? Zhuaran and Wei Liang thought that they had proven Tang Guo's innocence and told the truth. The people around them would definitely believe them. Tang Guo was really an innocent girl. There was no false news between her and them at all. They never thought that the crowd's reaction would be like this. They rubbed their heads and panicked. Their eyes were filled with despair. How could this be? How could this be? They had clearly explained it clearly. Didn't they already hear the truth of the matter? Why didn't they believe it? What they heard was still Tang Guo making a mountain out of a molehill. Children these days really couldn't take any pressure at all. Such a fragile mentality really couldn't compare to their original selves. If they couldn't take it, they would climb so high and cause trouble for everyone. Children these days were really hard to control. They had to use this method to solve everything. That's right. She even wanted the two boys to kneel down in front of everyone and explain to her. She wouldn't come down even if they begged her. They had already gone to this extent. What else did she want? Shut up. Wei Liang shouted in panic. What do you know? What I said is all true. If you say any more, I'll get someone to tear your mouth apart. His eyes looked like they were about to pop out. His fierce look did indeed make the discussions around him become much quieter. However, these people stopped talking. Instead, they followed the post online and even live-streamed the scene. The scene in front of them made the two of them feel hopeless and helpless. They felt that this group of people was so unfamiliar to them. How did this happen? At this moment, they finally realized how terrifying it was to be ridiculed, despised, and cursed when the whole world didn't believe you, blamed you, and thought you were a joke. It was too terrifying. This world that was attacked by words was terrifying and dark. It was so hopeless that it chilled one's heart, but there was no way to prove one's innocence. Xiao Guo, ever since she entered this high school, she had been subjected to all kinds of attacks every day. Yet, she could still smile, and her smile was so clean. She could also work part-time in the mall, perform shows, sing and dance, bring laughter to people, and promote products for customers. They stared blankly at the girl with an indifferent expression on the rooftop. Their hearts were suffocating. So, how did such an optimistic, cheerful, and clean girl get forced up step by them? Tang Guo. Changzhen had already climbed to the rooftop and carefully approached Tang Guo. It was not that he wanted to make a sound, but the moment he came up, the other party had already discovered him. He had no choice but to call for Dr. Li. Suicide is not enough to solve the problem. Come down with me, okay? Changzhen stretched out his palm. Come, hold my hand. Text 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download text on your phone. Peak. Chapter 998. In the future, I'll face it with you. No matter how many obstacles there are in the future, I'll be with you. Even if countless people misunderstand you, I'll believe you. I'm willing to always help you prove your innocence. Tang Guo returned a smile. Senior, you're really a good person. No, it's my fault. I didn't pay attention to the outside world and didn't stop Zhuoran and Wei Liang from hurting you. I didn't expect such consequences. If I stopped them in time, you wouldn't have been hurt so much. As a bystander, I'm also guilty. I'm guilty of being indifferent and careless. I didn't warn my good friends and let them commit such an unforgivable mistake, Changzhen said. Don't look at it coldly just because it doesn't concern you. If I had been more enthusiastic, the result wouldn't have been like this. Tang Guo, come down, okay? Tang Guo looked at Changzhen with a smile and said, Senior, I don't want to come down. I have something important to do now. Her voice was soft and carried to Changzhen's ears along with the wind. In the past, I only wanted to be innocent and prove that I didn't do those things. Now, I want more than that. Changzhen felt that something was wrong. He heard her say, if you do something wrong, you have to be punished. If you spread rumors, you can harm a living life. Spreading rumors has always been a crime. She stood up. Changzhen's heart skipped a beat. He thought that she was going to do something and the blood drained from his face. He didn't dare to rush over, afraid that he would agitate her. Tang Guo saw that there were more and more people downstairs. There were her classmates, schoolmates, teachers, parents who came in to watch the show, reporters, and passers-by. There were also people who were serious and discussing how to save her. Countless people were discussing why she chose to do this. Some people were saying whether she should jump or not. It was really a waste of her mood. If there was one, there would be a second. Such words were really infuriating, but she wasn't angry at all. She picked up the bag next to her, and under Changzhen's shocked gaze, she took out a loudspeaker. She turned it on, and the sound immediately spread to every corner of the school. All right, stop making noise. Listen to me. The harsh words that came from the loudspeaker silenced the people who were discussing below. Countless onlookers looked at the girl standing on the rooftop and speaking with a megaphone in shock. He did not understand. Nowadays, jumping off buildings was so high class that they had to use a loudspeaker to communicate with the crowd. First, I have to apologize to the uncles who planned to save me. I've really caused you trouble. Tang Guo said apologetically. The members of the rescue team looked at each other and shouted through the loudspeaker, Young lady, what's the matter? Let's come down and talk, okay? They had done this many times, and not every time could they successfully save the lives of those young people. In fact, when they heard the discussions around them, they were very angry. However, they were here to save people. Every moment was very precious. They didn't have the time to argue with these people. Life was the most important thing. Every time they successfully saved a life, their hearts would be comforted. Those terrible words were very likely to cause trouble for their rescue. The lives that could have been saved would be lost because of those words. Text 2016 website, less than 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download text on your phone. Peak. Chapter 999. Now that they heard that the girl above was still willing to communicate with them, they were naturally very happy. Tang Guo looked at them winking at her, intending to sneak up and take her down. She really thought that they were very cute. First of all, I want to say that I don't plan to jump off the building. As for why I'm here, It's because I think it's easier to be noticed if I stand high. I give you the impression that I'm a bad girl who hooks up with boys and is being kept by others. We're standing at the same level. If you surround me, I'm afraid you'll drown me with your saliva. That's why I chose this place. Today, I'm going to say what I want to say, Tangwa said to the rescue team members. I'm really sorry for causing you trouble. You don't have to quietly take me down. I'm 17 years old this year. My grades are first in the cohort. I'm good-looking and have a lot of good points. I have a mother who loves me and my future can be said to be bright. So, why did I choose to commit suicide? As if to prove that she was not going to commit suicide, she stepped in. Okay, you should be relieved now. If possible, I hope you can wait for me to finish before you leave. Of course, if you're not interested, you can leave, but, in a few days, someone will come looking for you. I think it's better for you to listen. Seeing that Tangwa really stepped in and did not seem to intend to commit suicide, the rescue team discussed with each other and felt that they still had to do the preparation work and listen to what the other party had to say. Especially when they heard that the other party was the first in the cohort, they took it even more seriously. They did not know what forced such an outstanding child to talk to the rooftop. Okay, everyone is quiet. Then I'll start. Chang Zhon also came to Tangwa's side. Seeing that she was indeed not excited and did not intend to jump down, he was relieved. Seeing that he had come, she only glanced at him and continued to speak with the loudspeaker. First of all, regarding the false rumors in the school that I'm being kept by an old man and sold out, I can solemnly state here that I did not do those things. Secondly, the rumors that I'm being kept by the two rich second-generation heirs downstairs are also false. Thirdly, regarding the school's decision to expel me because of a parent's complaint without investigating the truth, I will hold you responsible. Fourth, since I entered this school, I will use legal means to protect the rights and interests of all those who spread false rumors, slandered me, and attacked me personally. She glanced at the stunned people below and said with a smile, "Don't you understand? Well, to put it simply, you're about to be sued by me." Everyone looked at Tangwa in shock. Was this girl crazy? Also, the parents outside who were very agitated a few days ago, I'm sorry, but not only did you verbally attack me, you even hit me. You will also be sued by me. That person was you, Teacher Chen. As a teacher, you can't use words to attack your own student without evidence. So, you will also be sued by me. Tangwa took out a thick stack of names from her bag and looked up. Next, the people whose names I read will be the targets of my lawsuit. Everyone turned pale with fright as they looked at the girl who was speaking confidently. They originally thought that she was going to commit suicide, but they did not expect that they would be sued by the other party just because they were watching the show and saying a few words. Chang Zhon, who was at the side, was also a little surprised. Text 2016-inch website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download text on your phone. Peek. Chapter 1000. Chang Zhon and the others had the same thought at first. They thought that she had chosen to come to the rooftop because she couldn't bear the pressure and wanted to end her life to escape the world. He would never have thought that she really came here just to stand tall and attract more attention. When she took out the loudspeaker, he knew that she would definitely not choose to jump. At that time, he also thought that she had taken out the loudspeaker to tell everyone that she had not said those things to prove her innocence. He was wrong. She had indeed said that she had not done those things, but she had said it casually. Her biggest goal was to tell everyone here that they had been sued by her. Yes, that was her goal. Chang Zhon's eyes were smiling as he stood beside her and listened to her serious and calm words. At that moment, there was no math problem in his eyes, only her. They had all underestimated this very courageous girl. Hearing her read out the names of those people, one of the people in the crowd would always have a change in expression and mumble to himself, "Why is my name here?" He glanced at that person and the person left dejectedly. He didn't think that person could escape. She must have been very well prepared. Tangwa read this list of thousands of people for a long time. Every time she read out a person's name, that person would cover his face and leave. The reporters were very excited and quickly took pictures of these scenes. In the end, when Tangguo read out the names of some of the reporters who had started the rumors, they couldn't be excited anymore. They took their cameras and ran out dejectedly. They didn't expect that their peers would react first and take a picture of each other. The more they refused to be outdone, the more they took a few pictures of each other. They felt that if they were going to die, they would all die. At some point, it started to drizzle. No one spoke anymore, only the voice of the girl with the loudspeaker could be heard. Those who were drenched in the rain didn't know that this rain wasn't simple. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang squatted on the ground in a daze, looking at the girl on the rooftop. She was a little different from the one they had seen before. Bai Fei clenched her fists and looked at those people's ashen faces. She felt very happy. Does she think that she can sue as she pleases? Someone asked. That's right. We didn't break the law. What can she sue us for? She said that we spread rumors. Does she have any evidence? At this moment, there were rows of luxury cars parked outside the school. God knows how many of them there were. The door of the car opened, and a group of men and women in suits and leather shoes got out of the car with serious faces. Their faces ranged from Eastern to Western. Some had yellow skin, some had white skin, and some had black skin. They were all holding briefcases in their hands. Beside them was an assistant with the same skin tone, holding a thick pile of documents. As soon as this group of people appeared, they attracted countless people's attention. They showed their credentials and showed that they were lawyers who had taken over the case of Tangguo's classmate. The group of people walked into the school and arrived at the building where Tangguo was standing. Miss Tang, everything is ready. When can we start? 30 lawyers and 30 assistants stood below at the same time. Those who were originally hoping to get lucky looked at this unfamiliar scene. Those who were slightly knowledgeable recognized some of the top lawyers. At that time, their faces turned pale. We can start now, Tangguo said coldly. Text 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can download text directly on your phone. Top. Chapter 1001. Thousands of people were sued at the same time and were brought to court at the same time. The person who sued them was just a high school student. This matter caused a sensation around the world that day. Especially this high school student, who invited 30 of the world's top lawyers. They had fought countless lawsuits and rarely lost. Some of them had never lost at all. With such a strong lineup, no one would not be attracted. That day, reporters from all over the world decided to come and watch this unprecedented lawsuit. Especially the defendants. There were thousands of them. It was said that the lawyers had absolute evidence against them. These 30 people could already represent the world's top lawyers. Since they dared to appear in such a high-profile manner, it meant that they had absolute confidence. There were thousands of defendants. It was impossible to hold it in a formal court. Moreover, this very epic lawsuit was also taken over by the Supreme Court. For fairness, it was broadcasted worldwide. The global broadcast was requested by Tangguo. Before the people in the country could react, this matter was announced to the world by her. Almost every corner of the world, as long as there was internet, knew about this matter. Therefore, it was impossible for those who wanted to elope. It was impossible for those who wanted to do anything else. This was a trial that was completely open to the public. In the end, they settled on the location of Tangguo's high school. This was suggested by Tangguo. She said at the time, above us is the blue sky, and below us is the earth. Let's all stand here and have a good talk. You people who started rumors, slandered me, attacked me personally, and traumatized my heart and mind. None of you can escape. At that time, everyone present was shocked by this young girl who was only 17 years old. She stood in the middle of a group of adults with a serious expression. She was not afraid at all. Her aura was impossible to ignore. Her clean and bright eyes seemed to shine into their hearts. A month later, the trial began. That day, countless people came to the high school to listen in. Not only were there people from the country, but there were also people from other countries. All the members of the school were there. Because in this school, only a small number of people did not slander Tang Guo. The rest were all the defendants. On this day, countless people looked at the grand occasion at the defendant's stand, their hearts filled with shock. Among the onlookers, some of them had a look of relief in their eyes, while others had a relaxed smile on their faces. There were even some who were willing to testify in court. In the past, they didn't stand up because they couldn't bear the consequences. No one could be like that girl, who could think of suing these people after being subjected to countless filthy words. Most of them were from ordinary families. They had no courage or financial resources. Therefore, they admired her very much. This girl was really too amazing. She actually dared to do such a thing. It was impossible for Xu Maihui to not know about such a big matter. She had just finished such an important project when she saw a piece of news that shocked the world. A trial with thousands of defendants was about to begin. When she saw the news, she was stunned for a moment. When she saw the girl on the news who wasn't afraid of being reported, she was completely stunned. When she came back to her senses, she rushed back from outside the city. After getting off the plane, he rushed to school while talking to Tang Guo on the phone. His voice was still trembling, and he was about to cry. Text 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download text from your mobile phone. Vertex. Chapter 1002. Why didn't you tell Mom about such a big thing? Tang Guo's eyes were smiling, and her voice was much gentler. That would delay Mom's work. I can handle this kind of thing. You're only 17. I'm almost 18. I'll be 18 very soon, Tang Guo said. Xu Maihui couldn't bear to blame her, because she had seen the things on the news. She couldn't blame her. She was careless and only cared about earning money to create a good living condition for her and her daughter. She thought that her daughter was really fine just because she looked fine. How could she have known that her only daughter had been attacked by countless people ever since she entered that high school? She couldn't imagine that if her daughter hadn't been so strong, would the outcome have been different today? The little girl standing on the rooftop might not have chosen to take out the loudspeaker to tell everyone that they were being sued. Instead, she would have jumped down from the tall building amidst the crowd's disdain and shouts, falling to a bloody pulp. She didn't dare to imagine the consequences at all. She held the phone with trembling hands. Guo Guo, Mom will be there soon. Mom will accompany you. Since her daughter had chosen this path, as her mother, she had to stand by her side and face it with her. Those people who were full of evil intentions should indeed be sued and punished. Her Guo Guo had done the right thing. The only thing wrong was that she hadn't told her about this. She remembered how Tang Guo had once borrowed money from her and realized that Guo Guo had probably planned to do these things at that time. There were too many questions in her heart. She didn't want to go now. She just wanted to rush to Tang Guo's side as quickly as possible and face the group of detestable defendants with her daughter. Xu Maihui arrived very quickly. Her eyes were red as she walked in front of Tang Guo and hugged her tightly. The mother and daughter stood in the plaintiff's seat in the end. This trial went on for a long time. All the defendants were fearless at the beginning. They argued that they didn't spread rumors or say anything to slander Tang Guo. She had made all of this up. If she couldn't produce evidence, they would sue her for slander. Those in the know suddenly felt that this group of ferocious-looking people was somewhat scary. They jumped to their feet, filled with righteous indignation. They expressed their thoughts and denounced Tang Guo for lying. It was really ugly. At the defendant's stand, countless people were feeling smug. There were so many of them that their saliva was about to drown the other side. I have a witness, Tang Guo said. Next, it was time for the witnesses to appear. The first witness was Bai Fei. Bai Fei had always been timid, but this time, she wasn't afraid to stand in front of tens of thousands of people and express her thoughts. This was the first time she walked up to so many unfamiliar faces without fear. She puffed out her chest and smiled confidently. She clearly described the various verbal attacks that Tanguy had suffered when she came to this school, and clearly pointed out who had said what. She didn't know why, at this moment, she could clearly recall every scene of the past. After she went down, many witnesses came up one after another. One of them was actually Chang Zhon. He had a serious expression on his face as he recounted many things that had happened in school. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang, who were in the defendant's seat, admitted their sins first. They said that they had made some false statements and caused Tanguy psychological harm. They were willing to accept the punishment. Text 2016 website, 10000. After finishing this book, mobile phone can directly download text. The Summit. Chapter 1003. The appearance of these two traitors infuriated the rest of the people. They criticized them one after another. These two rich second-generation heirs were not good people to begin with. What they liked most was to learn how to tease little girls. They had changed girlfriends countless times, and each time, it did not last long. It was obvious that their characters were bad, so it was not strange that they would do such things. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang stood in the same spot in annoyance. Listening to the countless voices criticizing them, their expressions became even more numb. So this was how she reacted when she was verbally attacked. They raised their heads and looked in the direction of Tanguy. That girl still had a faint smile on her face, and her beautiful face was full of confidence. Even though so many people were denying it, she did not panic. While the defendants were still discussing how they had not verbally attacked Tanguy, there was a commotion at the plaintiff's table. After the judge agreed to present the evidence in front of the crowd fell silent. Every corner of the world was broadcasting the trial live. When they saw the video on the screen, they were all stunned. Especially those who had jumped up from the defendant's table to say that they had not verbally attacked Tanguy and had not verbally insulted Tanguy, were actually shown in these videos. The videos were all in the public domain. These people's expressions were hideous. Some were mocking, some were jealous, and some were discussing this girl named Tanguy in whispers or loud voices. Look at her. If she's not selling herself, what is she? I heard that she comes from a single-parent family. When she was in her first year of high school, I even saw her mother dressed to the nines. This daughter must have learned from her mother. Otherwise, she would know how to dress up at such a young age and use her beauty to exchange for money. Her mother can't be a kept woman. She must have accidentally given birth to her after her mother became a kept woman, right? I heard that her mother is a part manager of a big company. She's only in her 30s. The last time I passed by their company, I saw her pulling with a pot-bellied man. He must be her boss. Phut. How shameless. How unlucky. Why do we have such a classmate? That's right. If only she wasn't in our class. The various camera angles changed, and the people in the video did not realize that they looked really ugly when they were discussing these things. In the defendant's table, no one spoke. Their faces were all red. They looked up with their eyes bulging, with anger and disbelief. In fact, they did not even think that they would look really ugly in the video. The scene changed to Tanguy's class. Everyone at the scene, including the whole world, heard this group of teenage girls discussing whether or not Tanguy had condoms in her bag. They even encouraged Tanguy's deskmate to check her bag. Who would have thought that this girl named Shu Ji would really go and look through it? She must have dressed herself prettily after school to be picked up by her sugar daddy. Countless people found it hard to imagine that such vicious words would actually come from the mouths of these young and innocent girls. Next, the video was played of each of the defendants slandering, attacking, and insulting Tanguy. Text 2016-inch website, 100,000. You can download the text directly on your mobile phone. Chapter 1004. They didn't seem to be avoiding anything. They were loudly proclaiming how dirty the girl was in public. The viewers were furious. They felt that these people were really dirty. Their hearts, brains, and mouths were dirty. They looked dirty everywhere. When they saw a group of reporters quietly squatting in a corner, whispering about how they were going to exaggerate and report about the girl, their hearts churned and they felt like vomiting. Many terrible news stories were fabricated by this group of false reporters in order to attract attention. They would never consider how much harm the rumors would bring to the people involved. What they cared about was how many people saw the news, how many people it attracted, how many times it was reposted, how many comments it received, and how many people were discussing the news they wrote. At this time, they might have brewed a cup of coffee and sipped it while leisurely moving the mouse. They looked at this group of fools who had been deceived by them arguing about the rumors they had fabricated. They were very pleased with themselves. They cursed in their hearts. Stupid, stupid. The scene changed again. It was the day when Tang Guo was standing on the rooftop. Most of the defendants were watching from below. When they saw the girl's legs dangling in the air from such a high place, everyone around the world was shocked. Even though they knew that the girl was standing safely on her original seat, they couldn't help but worry that she would fall down. Then, when they heard the words coming from inside, they were so angry that they almost smashed the phones and computers in front of them. The two boys admitted their mistakes and announced the truth. They said that they had never kept such a girl as a mistress and that there was nothing between them. After that, the people below started to discuss. Everyone's face was magnified and given a close-up. These words were, in order to save their classmate, these two boys are really benevolent. They actually forgot about all the mistakes and took the blame. Yeah, that's right. When it comes to buying your money, nothing else matters. That girl is really making a mountain out of a molehill. She was so desperate because of some rumors. You've been sitting there for so long. Why didn't you jump down? Yeah, didn't you want to jump? Why didn't you jump? Kids these days really can't take any pressure. In contrast, the rescue workers on the other side were all very serious. Everyone was busy preparing for the rescue. This group of people, whose hearts, minds, and mouths were filled with malicious intent, were still discussing when the girl was going to jump, how she was going to jump, and whether she was going to jump or not. Countless parents with children were so angry that they were hopping on the spot. The ugly faces of those people had really opened their eyes to the world. When Tang Guo explained that she was going to sue them, a funny thing happened. Many people actually slipped away with their tails between their legs. They even saw several reporters taking photos of each other. In the end, it also showed the parents outside the school who were filled with righteous indignation and demanded that the school expel Tang Guo. Without any explanation, they threw all the buns, youtiao, and whatever else they could throw at Tang Guo. If it wasn't for a tall boy protecting her from the beginning, this girl would have been smashed into a sorry state. Everyone was already numb when they heard a well-dressed parent calling her a little bitch. Text 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download text from your mobile phone. Vertex. Chapter 1005. Those who had their ugly side highlighted in the video and broadcasted live to the entire world turned red. They wanted to say something, but they couldn't. In the face of the truth, they couldn't deny it. They were the ones in the video. They were also the ones who said those things. They thought that if they didn't admit it, everything would be fine. There were so many people on the defendant's side. Could that girl really sue them? When the video was broadcasted for the entire world to see, their faces turned ashen. Especially those who had a good status and maintained a good, humble, and polite image at work, at home, and in the eyes of outsiders. At this moment, their image was completely destroyed. They couldn't imagine how the people around them would look at them after today. When they thought of that scene, their scalps went numb and their hearts turned cold. Those who were usually called outstanding students also hung their heads with red faces. They clenched their fists and pursed their lips. Their eyes were filled with anger and regret. They weren't regretting that they did something wrong, but that when they said those words, they were recorded by the camera. What was more frightening was that everyone saw their hideous faces. Even if they didn't have to bear criminal responsibility, they were still young. So many people saw what they said, What would they do in the future? In the defendant's seat, most of them were upset. Why did Tang Guo have such evidence? They couldn't deny it. Tang Guo didn't care what they were upset about. She didn't care if they would realize their mistakes. She only had one goal today, and that was to make them pay the price. The impact of this incident was very big. Just before today, countless posts of people who had been slandered and verbally attacked had popped up. These victims who were still alive had all recounted their experiences. They all admired this little girl. She actually dared to face the difficulties and sue this group of despicable people. There were also relatives of the victims who talked about the pressure the victims suffered when they were alive. In the end, they got all kinds of mental and psychological problems. In the end, they couldn't be treated and chose to commit suicide. Everywhere, all over the world, there were many people who were verbally attacked like this. Finally, someone was willing to sow discord and sue the group of murderers. They could only clap their hands vigorously, sit in front of the computer, or hold their phones, cheering for her, and at the same time, announce their encounter. They only hoped that these people would receive the harshest punishment. As long as they were punished, there would be fewer and fewer people who would casually spread rumors and malicious words in the future. Because of the importance that people all over the world attached to this case, countless victims jointly submitted a petition, and the trial of this case was very fast. The people who were sued by Tang Guo were sentenced to a maximum of 3 years in prison, while the minimum was 6 months. Those who had not reached the legal age were fined. These people who were not responsible for their own words had to pay Tang Guo a huge sum of money. Their parents did not educate them well, and this was the teaching fee. Of course, many people were unconvinced and unwilling, so they filed an appeal. They thought that they would at least have a chance to make a comeback. They did not expect that the Supreme Court would reject their request. No matter how many times they pleaded, they were always rejected. The justice of the law made people all over the world excited, especially the victims and their families. Even though they knew that most of the time, there was no absolute fairness in this world. It should be said that there was no fairness in the first place. But through the efforts of that girl and all of them, those people were punished. This was what they wanted. Text 2016 website, 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download text on your phone. Peak. Chapter 1006. Not long after the lawsuit ended, Tang Guo sued her school as well. Relying on a lot of evidence, the school did not investigate the rumors. Under the pressure of various parents, they expelled her directly. She also had 30 outstanding lawyers to help her. Naturally, she won. After suing the school, she also sued the teacher who humiliated her in class. The onlookers all thought that she was crazy. She only smiled and said, "If you didn't want to be sued by me, you shouldn't have done those things in the first place. They have already violated my rights. Why can't I sue them?" Naturally, that teacher also lost the lawsuit. In the end, she was even expelled by the school and was labeled as a permanent employee. Not long after, her teaching license was revoked. After receiving compensation from numerous defendants, Tang Guo created a foundation as the victim of verbal attacks. The foundation's declaration was that if anyone spread rumors, slandered, or verbally attacked them, as long as they did not do these things, the foundation would be willing to fight for them forever. With both fame and fortune, the 30 world-famous lawyers also quickly expressed their willingness to fight for these victims for the rest of their lives and protect their rights. After the incident, Tang Guo gave them the compensation they deserved. She posted every sum of compensation she received on her social media account. From now on, every expenditure would be based on this. This action caused countless people to donate to the foundation, especially those who had grown up and survived the most painful and difficult times. Now, the victims who were doing well donated the most money to the foundation. They hoped that there would be fewer rumors and slanders in this world so that their next generation would not have to suffer the terrible verbal attacks that they had suffered in the past. Those who were originally prepared to speculate whether she would use these to gain benefits for herself lowered their heads in shame. Thinking that this was a young lady who would sue the person who spread the rumors to court, they were very glad that they did not subconsciously spread rumors that she was abusing her power for personal gain. After this, Tang were proposed to transfer schools. When the major schools heard that she was transferring schools, they all extended an olive branch to her. They all knew about Tangwa's grades. She was an outstanding student who only had 1 point deducted from her Chinese essay. She chose another school in the city. It wasn't as famous as the previous one, but it was closer to home and had a good climate. Everyone thought that everything would come to an end. After Tangwa won the lawsuit, no one would dare to bully her in the future. Those who spread rumors would not dare to act rashly. Those who lost the case, even though they were unwilling, still filed appeals again and again. No one dared to do anything to them. However, they did not know that the group of defendants did not file another appeal after a month. When their relatives and friends saw their pale faces again, they were very surprised and hurriedly asked them what had happened recently. These people only shook their heads and bitterly smiled. Their eyes were filled with despair and fear, and they did not say anything. The people outside did not know that what they were most afraid of now was the arrival of night. Every time night came, they would lie in bed and close their eyes. The moment they fell asleep, they would go to a terrifying world. That world was not friendly at all. The whole world was attacking them verbally. Vicious words covered the sky and covered the earth. Those people spoke as if they had really done something that they had not done. No matter where they went, they would be met with disdainful and mocking gazes. Text 2016 website, less than 100,000. After finishing this book, you can directly download the text on your phone. Peak. Chapter 1007. Have you ever experienced a time when everyone was unfriendly to you? What they had experienced was that the whole world was unfriendly to them. For example, when someone said that they had stolen something, they argued in their dreams that they had not stolen anything. However, those people mocked them and said, "The people in our class are all from good families. You're the only one who is the poorest. If you didn't steal it, who did?" In their dreams, their faces turned red and they said that they had not stolen it. You still dare to quibble. If you didn't steal it, why would it be under your desk drawer? Yeah, such a dirty student is actually from our class. It's really embarrassing. If you can't afford it, so be it. Why did you steal other people's things? Tell the teacher. You must tell the teacher about this. Don't be friends with such a bad student in the future. They thought that the teacher would definitely investigate the matter. However, under the words of those students, the teacher actually believed that they had stolen from their classmates. Teacher, I didn't steal it. Teacher, he stole it. I saw him steal it. The teacher said, if you do something wrong, you must have the courage to admit it. Student, stealing is a bad habit. Lying is also a bad habit. I hope you can realize your mistake. In class later, you have to apologize in front of the whole class and reflect on your actions. They were in despair. They did not understand why the teacher did not believe them. They refused to admit it, thinking that this would definitely attract attention and let people find out the truth. They did not expect the teacher to inform their parents that they had stolen from their classmates. They thought that their parents would definitely believe them. However, they did not expect their father to come up and give them a slap. Then, he scolded, "Little brat, you actually learned how to steal?" They argued, "I didn't steal anything." Parent, the students have all testified that they saw him steal with their own eyes. I didn't expect him to be unwilling to admit his mistake and even scold his classmates. Parent, you should take him back and teach him well. When they saw their parents, their faces turned red and they hurriedly bowed with an apologetic smile on their faces, indicating that they would. Just like that, they were brought home and naturally, they were beaten up. When the neighbors heard this and asked about the truth, they would comment, "Children should be educated well. When they are young, they steal needles. When they grow up, they steal gold. Just beat them a little." They were beaten up, but they couldn't say anything. They obviously didn't do anything, so why did these people slander them for stealing? From that day onwards, everyone who knew them knew that he had stolen something. This dream was especially long. It should be said that it was a dream of a lifetime. The people who had this dream all had different endings. Some of them really became thieves because they couldn't stand the rumors. When they were young, they stole small things. When they grew up, they stole big things. In the end, they were caught and sent to jail. They didn't accomplish anything and their lives were ruined. A portion of them couldn't stand the various rumors and slanders and tried their best to prove their innocence. In the end, they were attacked more and more. In the end, they couldn't take it anymore and chose to commit suicide. When this group of people jumped down from the tall building, they saw a bloody mess in front of their eyes. They were immediately awakened. When he saw the darkness around him, he realized that it was a dream. They rejoiced that it was just a dream, but they never thought that from that day onwards, this dream would never end, and they would have the same dream every night. Text 2016 website, 100000. After finishing this book, mobile phone can directly download text. Vertex. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.